I want to welcome everybody to today's EntreprenHer show. My name is Heidi Richards Mooney. I am your host today, as well as the founder of Women in E-Commerce and president of Redhead Marketing. And it is my honor, as always, to interview another amazing woman. And this woman is indeed amazing. Let me tell you a little bit about her. An international award-winning high school teacher, Anna Vanlandingham, had the delightful ability to help people learn complicated subjects in an easy and fun way. She taught economics at Lake Mary High School and was named the Junior Achievement International Teacher of the Year, the Florida Economic Educator of the Year, just to name two of the many, many awards that Anna has received over the years. Retiring after 25 years of teaching, Anna owned and operated an organic spray tanning salon where she learned the ins and outs of business. Wow, I'll bet. She found that as much as she enjoyed the people and the business, she really missed teaching. She discovered social media through her business connections and realized the value social media can have on a business when utilized properly. Today, Anna helps business owners easily understand and the value of utilizing Pinterest and how to monetize their page. Pinterest PC use and mobile users are exploding, as many of you already know, and some of you are probably using it. And I think today Anna is going to show us how to do it even more effectively. It's not just fun, it's for business. Please help me welcome Anna Vanlandingham, the Pinterest Pro. Welcome, Anna.
Hello, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm excited. I'm doing great, and I always love interviewing amazing women. And you and I have known each other now a couple of years online. I think you were actually one of our We Magazine for Women top 100 women in e-commerce one year, maybe last year or the year before. And now you're in our Women Rockin' the Web group on Facebook, and I'm really excited that our paths continue to cross. So I decided that not only does my audience need to learn what you're doing, so do I. So tell us how you first became interested in Pinterest and why you chose to focus on it in your business.
Well, I was thinking about what I wanted to, and a friend introduced me to Pinterest, and that was when you had to have an invitation. Mm-hmm. So she said, I'll send you an invitation. It might take a while for you to be accepted. And so I was accepted, and all. And so because I was thinking about retiring, I thought, this is really a great tool for marketing, because all of a sudden, all these people were following me and repinning my pins and so forth. And so then that was when businesses did start using Pinterest more and more. And I've always, I guess my economic background, I like to get in on things on the ground floor and watch it grow. And I felt like if I specialized in Pinterest, that would be better, because I knew that there were so many people out there that do Facebook and Twitter and so forth. So I thought that would be my niche in the market, so to speak. So I started, I took Melanie Duncan's course because she was about the only person out there that offered any kind of training as far as Pinterest was concerned, and started, studying and so forth, and to develop my business.
Wonderful. So you took a course. So obviously, the one thing you just now said that I think was probably the most important key so far is that you found an opportunity to use it and be niched in it, as opposed to trying to be all things to all people, as many social media people are, myself included. I know enough about all of them. I would say that I'm more of an expert in LinkedIn than any of them, but I know enough about all of them to help my clients use the tools better. But I like the fact that you can specialize in one and really get known for that. So then what are some of the benefits of leveraging Pinterest in business?
Well, first of all, Pinterest is images, and images are processed by the brain 60,000 times quicker than words. So you're able to get your message across very quickly. Also, people go on Pinterest to shop. 55% more of the users on Pinterest in a survey that was done shows that 55% of the people are actually there to shop. In contrast, On Facebook, 12% are there to shop, and on Instagram, 12% are there to shop. So you have this ready-made market, so to speak, and what you have to do is to get their attention. And so, you have to figure out what your strategy is. And the key is, of course, to know who your market is to begin with.
Excellent. And speaking of market, how do you find out who your market is when you're on Pinterest, or is it a similar market than would be on any other channel?
Well, it's similar to the other channels, but what you need to do, and I have an online course, and in the online course, I spend time in the first few sessions talking about how you need to know what your buyer persona is. That's true with any social media, because if your buyer persona is not on Pinterest, then you don't need to be there.
Right.
It's like people talk about Instagram, and I say Instagram is great if your market is under the age of 35, because it's the younger generation that's there. If your product is geared towards that audience, if you are business to business, LinkedIn is your market. So, and I'm very upfront with people about that sort of thing. Anybody that has a product, Pinterest is ideal for. I mean, any company, any type of business could use Pinterest, but your ideal ones would be ones that actually have a product that they could then send people to their website to learn more about.
Excellent. So, see, I want to move around a little bit while we're talking. So, I noticed that you you talk about a process you call mapping your way to profits. Can you explain what that is and how you do that?
Yeah, about a year and a half ago, when I first started doing Pinterest and so forth, and taking courses and reading and all, it was everybody was saying, be creative with the names of your boards, make creative names. And that's what I told my clients. But then I got to thinking about the fact that Pinterest had these categories. And I thought, if they have these categories, that means they're lumping them together into those categories. And I always compare it to like filing cabinets, and you have files in there. So you want to make sure that you're using those words so that you are mapping out the way to your website. So you want to first make sure that you're naming your files, like images that you're uploading to Pinterest. A lot of people will leave like these long numbers as the name of the file. Don't do that, because you want to help them find their way. It's just like being on the interstate. If all the signs are correct, you'll find your way to the correct place. But if not, you're in trouble. So that's what you're wanting to do, starting with those file names and then in your description. So for example, let's say that you're a real estate broker. Well, you would want to take a look at the home decor category and the architect category on Pinterest. And you would want to go through there and find keywords, because that's where, your real estate type things are. And so with your file name, you would want to make sure you included those keywords in your description, that you included those words. See, every time somebody gets on the interstate, every place, you want to have those keywords in your board names. And then, of course, as far as your account name is concerned, for example, mine is Pinterest Pro, and I added marketing to it because I knew that marketing, is a key word that people use as far as finding my kind of service. And that was just to help people to find me, to give them that roadmap to find me, so that then they will click on the image and go to my website. So
what I think you're saying is that when people are on Pinterest, they're searching for specific things. And if you make the category something easy that are more, I don't want to say generic, but more common, then people, right, it's going to be more easy for people to find you, instead of things like, I see people naming shoes sole provider. Well, okay, what does that mean? I mean, what does things I like mean? Well, we all like things, but is it something that everybody's going to like? So I do have some fun boards. Those are just for me, because I'm saving pins I find on that other people are sharing. Like I like my shoe one, I can't remember what I call it, but it's something kind of crazy. But generally speaking, my boards are all named things that people are searching
Right.
for, like worth reading or books of the day or top 10 books or something like that, or whether it's marketing tips or web design.
Exactly.
So that's what you're saying. And each image should be also named before you upload it to Pinterest.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So following
Because-
the same rules as you would if you were adding images to a website.
Oh yeah, exactly. Because you want to do that with your website to help with the SEO.
Right.
And so the same thing is with Pinterest. And I always tell people Pinterest SEO is a little bit different because the first step in the process are those broad Pinterest categories. So you want to pay attention to those also. And Pinterest, helps with your SEO because those bots that are out there searching around, they like things to be grouped. And that's what Pinterest does. It groups large amounts of information together. And so it helps you to be found. And that's why a lot of times, I hear people saying quite often that when they Google something, that on that front page of Google will be people's Pinterest accounts, and I said, that's why. It's because, the bots like that because they can find a large group of information in one place.
And it's obviously helping them getting found online. It's a great tool for you getting found online as a business owner. You talked briefly about what type of businesses could use Pinterest. Can you go into that in a little more depth? Like what other types of businesses are ideal, and what are the businesses that are not necessarily good, that Pinterest would not necessarily work well for?
Well, I say that the housing industry is a no-brainer. If you're in the construction industry or you're a real estate broker or you're a home, interior decorator, any of those, because people are planning their houses on Pinterest. Okay?
Right.
That's what they're doing.
I did that with my last bathroom.
Oh, yeah. That's, people say that all the time. I actually have a friend that does remodeling for people, and one of his clients was in Hawaii, and she would go on Pinterest and pin how she wanted the remodeling done in her house here in Florida, and he would do the work, send her pictures, and back and forth, and the whole remodeling project was done via Pinterest.
Wow.
So yeah, and then of course the wedding industry. Everybody, wedding planners all the time are talking about how they get so tired of people coming in and saying,
"Can you make
just look on Pinterest?" Yeah. The downside of it for wedding planners is that it creates these unrealistic expectations sometimes. So and then the travel industry, because weddings and travel are two broad categories of Pinterest. And so, and people go on there to plan their vacations, to find, interesting places to go, or their honeymoon, and so forth. So those are very good industries. Now, by contrast, if you're a lawyer, you could use Pinterest. I always tell people, when the bots are out there searching, one of the factors is how many different places you are. Well, it gives you another place, that you are, and it helps with your SEO and so forth. But I don't think a lot of people are on Pinterest looking for lawyers, okay? Or financial advice, So, and I had a guy that helps people to get government contracts. And he came up to me after a presentation and asked me about it, and I said, I'm always honest with people, and I'll tell you, I really don't think Pinterest would be for your business, because it's just not what people on Pinterest looking for.
Right. Yeah. They're looking for visual solutions to problems, I think.
Exactly.
So that, great books to read. I know I found it very good for, sharing books. I have my flower shop happens to be on Pinterest. And what I love is that Pinterest sends you these emails saying, here's some suggested pins. So tell us, how do they figure out, do they base it on the pins we currently have, or the things that we're,
or the things
all of the above?
Pinterest went to a ranking system, and a part of the ranking system is that it's based on what you have shown interest in, what your boards are, what you're pinning on your boards and repinning. And so they track all that. And so if, let's say last night you repinned a bunch of pins that were dealing with books, then the next day they're going to suggest some books that you might like to read.
That's what happens. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And keep in mind that Pinterest, the person that started Pinterest worked for Google. Okay. And he says he's going to compete with Google as a search engine. So that, that's why I'm always saying, think about what you would do with Google, because the search, as far as Pinterest is concerned, is very similar. Mm-hmm. Because, if you type something in the search bar on Pinterest, you'll notice that now it gives suggested topics, just like on Google. If you type in wedding, it'll have wedding dresses, wedding ideas, so it lets you know what are some typical terms that people are including with that word, which then gives you words to use in your descriptions and naming your boards.
Excellent. Great advice. Let's talk about, on one of your blogs, you talk about using Pinterest to form cooperatives, and that got me interested. So what do you mean by that? Tell us about it.
Well, I always find that, as far as any kind of marketing is concerned, nowadays we say, find your client's pain point. And the pain points for my client are time or money. Okay. Having the time to do it, because you have to be consistent with it, or the money to pay me to do it for them. And so I got to thinking about this, and I thought, what would be great is a solution for that would be, say, a large real estate company would have one Pinterest account. And then on that one Pinterest account, they would have, say, the different realtors on there would have, 2 or 3 boards. And then, say, someone that they have a relationship with that does home repairs. Because, people in real estate, they're always getting people to fix something in the house that they're going to sell. Interior decorator, anyone like that. And each one of them has 2 or 3 boards. And so you see, they're forming this cooperative. And in doing that, then what I would do is set up a schedule for them to where, say, one of the realtors is responsible for Monday pinning on there, and then the home decor another day. And so you see, you have that consistency. That solves the problem of time. One person is not having to figure out, okay, when am I going to have time to keep up with this, and so forth. And then where I would come in is helping them, being like their consultant, and each one of those individuals pay me a fee of, say, it depend on how many people were involved, but say $50 a month. The combined income would be, my rate, but someone's not having to, come up with the entire amount on their own.
Right.
And so by, just an idea of a cooperative, you're working together. Also in that, you are using each other's audiences, to share your email list and so forth, by getting your, exposing these other businesses that you typically use in your business.
That's a great idea. I do a very similar thing with book marketing on Twitter, and I have several. Every month we have a group of authors that all get together and we help one another. Mm-hmm. And it really is a wonderful way to spread it around without one person doing everything. I just wanted to welcome Clarissa. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for your comment. That she says that's a creative way to generate traffic and income. So thank you, Clarissa, for that feedback, and also for being with us. So you'll notice sometimes I'm going to get a little sidetracked because I have to welcome and comment on our guests. And if we do have any questions, I don't want to forget them or miss them. So thank you again. So Anna, you talked about finding the time to do it. What is there a like a sweet spot, or how how often do you recommend people pin on Pinterest? How much time do they need to spend on it, say a week or a month?
For one business, I would say you need to set aside at least an hour a day.
Wow.
And because you have to be consistent. I mean, excuse me, consistency is the key. And what I do with my clients is I use a program, Viral Tag, to schedule the pins so that they're not, just one blob going out there at one time. I schedule them to be staggered going out, and then you need to for Pinterest, the ideal time is from like 8 o'clock at night to 12 to midnight, which is another thing I like about Pinterest because I'm not a morning person. And then for some reason from 2 to 4 in the afternoon. So I try to make sure that I am scheduling pins to go up in that time period from 8 to 12. And I'm a big believer in original content because my philosophy is if you're not pinning things from your website or uploading images and pinning them, you're advertising for someone else.
Yeah, I agree.
Because if I repin your pin, then it's going to go to your website, So with my clients, what I do is my assistant does the repinning, and we have a whole schedule worked out to where that's, causing some activity. And then I do the original content, and I schedule it between that 8 and 12 at night to go up.
So that's wonderful. That's good to know. So, but you're telling me a whole hour a day, and I'm thinking business owners have several things going on, including other social media, and then having to devote an hour a day. So roughly translated, an hour a day is that like creating one pin and uploading it, or several, or is that like uploading several for the day, for the week? Kind of give me a little more.
If I were doing it, when I'm doing it daily for my clients and I'm creating, say, 5 original pins, then to do that, to, get the pin, make sure it's the correct size, create a description and so forth, that's going to take me at least an hour to get all that done and scheduled.
So you figure 5 pins a day is roughly the amount you recommend
of original pins. Yes.
Not that doesn't include repinning and comment loving and all that other stuff. Okay.
No,
okay.
No.
Well, but that's good to know, because I think people just think that it's 5 pins a day and then you're done, and it's not knowing that there's so many other moving parts to it. Clarissa mentioned EST. I'm assuming that the time that Anna is referring to is the 8 to midnight in your time zone. Is that correct? Anybody?
Most of the things that they quote statistics and so forth is Eastern Standard Time.
It is Eastern. Okay, so it could be a different time zone in California then, but
right.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, and what I always tell people, take a look at the analytics, kind of watch and see when are people repinning your things, and so if you're in a different time zone, it may be a little bit different. And then when to schedule those pins to be, to go up on Pinterest to attract them.
Excellent. Tell us about your first client, Anna, and what you learned from working with her or him.
Do I really have to?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that, this is a learning opportunity for everybody, and you're a teacher.
I know. And when I was a teacher, I'd always say, listen, let me tell you.
I find I learn more from the learning opportunity challenges than I do from doing everything right.
I tell people all the time that my tuition for this job has been very expensive. But really, my first few clients were workshops that I did. And one of the things that I learned with that was to keep the group small. And that is more so probably because of me than anything. the teacher in me, I'm wanting, because my workshops are hands-on, you're setting up your account and so forth. So the teacher in me wants to make sure that everybody understands and, gets it and so forth. So I learned to keep those groups very small. But my first client, as far as, setting up their account and that sort of thing, was a lady that she refurbishes carousel horses.
Interesting.
Yeah. Original ones from, that are antiques and so forth. And what I learned from that is to ask people up front how much experience they have with computers. And
boy, I've made that mistake before, not asking that question. Yeah, we assume they know how to even send an email, and there are people who don't. Or don't know how to add an attachment to an email.
Oh, yeah. And because when you say these things, and like, for example, she attended one of my workshops, and like I said, it's hands-on and so forth, and she showed up without a computer. I'm like,
okay, how we set up your account?
Yeah. So I'm letting her use my laptop, and I'm trying to ad lib, without my laptop, with my PowerPoint, and all, because of course I'm going to try to make sure everybody can participate and so forth. And I have to say, along the way, one of the things that I learned is to get people to pay you up front and not trust that they're going to pay you. I am such a I guess it's a teacher in me, in my Southern mentality, where, the Southern mentality is you help each other, and so forth. And I found when I was first starting out, I got taken advantage of a lot because, people would, because I was just so nice. And it's so hard for me to not be nice and not want to help people, whether they pay me or not, so I'm learning not to give away all my information.
Well, and you can give away enough information. They're still going to want more, because I have found that giving away your best information leads them to want more, knowing, because you can give away a lot of information. It still doesn't mean they're going to understand it or know how to implement it, and that's the thing.
But don't set up their entire account for free.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I learned the hard way. I've always asked for a deposit, but it was never enough at the beginning. Yeah. I would ask for 25%. Now I require 50 or 60%, depending on the job. And I require, and this is a tip for everybody that I learned from my dear friend, Christina Rowe, is in the contract that we create, I tell my clients how long the job's going to take. And typically, if I'm, for instance, doing a website, that's primarily what I do is WordPress web design. And so in the contract, I say that the balance is due 30 days or upon completion, whichever comes first. And the reason is I can do a website in 3 days, but I have to usually wait for people to give me the content. And I have a client I've been working with for 6 months, and I still don't have her bio for her website. Yeah. And I have to learn to let go of that and say, okay, well, I'm just waiting for her, and it's her. It isn't my timing; it's her timing. And if she's okay with it, and she paid the balance, I don't want this. And I did mention, look, I don't want this to drag on for 2-3 years because I want to get the job done. If something happens to me, then your job's not done. Then you're going to feel cheated, and I'll be up in heaven going, oh my gosh, I didn't finish that. And I'm going to feel guilty. So, there are, it's a two-way street, but I think, there are a lot of learning curves when you first start a business, like how managing Speaking of managing a business, what's a typical day like for you?
Well, the typical day for me is something that a luxury I have not had since, say high school or whatever, but I get up every morning and I go walking with my dog, and then I come home and I check my email and have a leisurely breakfast. Like I said, it's probably been high school since I had that pleasure of doing that. Because as a school teacher, of course, I had to be there at 7:00, bell rings, you had to be a Pavlov dog. And so when I retired from teaching, and I was thinking about doing something else, I thought, I'm going to afford myself that one luxury, and all. But then after that, I answer emails, phone calls. Then I start looking at, um, scheduling my clients' pins for that day and so forth. And then I start, I'll work on things like strategy for my business, evaluating the analytics of my clients on Pinterest. And by the way, the analytics on Pinterest are awesome. Yes. They really are very good. You can learn a lot from that. And, thinking of ways to market my business and so forth. And that's pretty much, how my day is spent. Because a lot of people don't realize how much time it takes to, if you're doing those original pins, to create those images, to find the images. Sometimes
it can take longer to find an image than it does to actually create the thing you're going to use. I know. I spend hours because I do a lot of article writing. So I find article, and for my clients and myself. So I would imagine I spend more than an hour a day just looking for the right images for all of my clients' work. Mm-hmm. So that's where that hour, it's like, but then again, finding the right image is so important, Well,
a hint on that for people is that I usually cover whenever I'm doing a workshop or presentation. What I learned to do is, for the names of my boards, I create folders. And so if I see an image somewhere that I think would be good for a particular topic, I throw it in that folder and I say I'm creating an inventory, building up an inventory. And then that way I have it to go back to. And another little helpful hint with that I had to learn the hard way, especially for things like quotes and, humor, that sort of thing. I learned that within that folder to make a used and an unused folder.
So you don't reuse the same. Yeah, that's smart. I've never thought of that one. So I definitely, I got to go back I can't go back to my folder. I'll just start now.
That's what I did.
But
after a couple of weeks, I'm like, oh my God, I can't remember if I used this one or not.
But that is probably one of the best tips, having a used and a new folder. I think I love that, or unused. So are there some places that you really like to get images from? And if so, would you like to share them?
Everywhere. I Google a lot. Because with Google, and I wrote a blog on this, you can, and most people don't know this, but you can go to the other tools and set it to where it's images that you can use, and even the size of the image, that, it's greater than or a certain size and so forth. And to me, that is just so easy to do. And all. So that way I know, because I've set those parameters, that I'm using something that can be used and so forth. I tell you another place, sometimes I have some older ladies that send, they still forward the emails and that sort of stuff. And sometimes they'll send me, say a pretty picture of flowers, something like that. And I'll save it.
Well, hey, if it works, right?
Or even jokes, and I'll make it into a pin, to use it on the humor board. And so it's kind of like when I was teaching economics, I always said, everywhere I look, I see graphs shifting. Well, now, when I'm looking at images, I'm like, ooh, I could use that. And and I've done a lot of traveling. So I have a very large amount of images and photos we've taken. We've been to several national parks and so forth. So, and I've been to 32 different countries. So, some of them I had to scan in because, I wasn't using digital at that point in time, but I use a lot of those images that I have on file.
Oh, that's wonderful. And that's a good point that you mentioned about the using your own original images, or, it's nice that you can use these free ones. And you mentioned two, you mentioned one. I'm going to share just a couple that I use. And it depends again what you're using it for. For me, article writing, I think unless it's a high end, for high end products, I never use a free image. I will buy an image, but for two free sites that I really like are Pixabay and Pexels, PEXELS.com. And I just came across Pexels about a month ago, and I'll tell you, I found some amazing images. Now you'll see a lot of these free sites will have the same images on all of them because people who are sharing them on the sites are sharing them all over.
Right.
So that's fine.
Right.
But then there's sites where you can pay, and I like the paid ones for my clients that are paying me big money to do for them. Right. But again, when it comes to Pinterest, I think it's good to have a nice mix, like you mentioned, your own. You talked about, I want to shift again. You mentioned about marketing your business. Now, do you do virtual workshops, or are they all live and in person, the workshops that you do?
All of my workshops so far have been live and in person. One of my goals this year, and I better hurry up because the year is passing away very quickly, right, is to do some, webinars. I do have an online course that I developed, and it's on my website there, and but I want to do some, webinars so that to try to, build my audience and be able to be more national rather than, geographic location.
So what's the name of the program that the online program that you have?
Pinning Your Way to Profitability.
Because I'm going to have people go over to your website, Pin Your Way to Profitability. So if they go to,
and on my homepage, there's a button there for you to click on, and it'll take you right.
And that's at Pinterest Pro or the Pinterest Pro?
PinterestPro.com.
Got it. Excellent. So I'll make sure people get over there, and we'll talk again about where they can find you. So who's your ideal target? Who's your ideal audience or target audience? And how do they find out about your programs?
One of the way that I found is most effective and is by people hearing me speak. And the reason for that is because a lot of people don't understand Pinterest. There are a lot of people out there that still think it's just for recipes and women, and so forth. And so once I speak and I educate them on all, especially like with the analytics and so forth, then they're like, wow, this really is a pretty powerful tool. But that, and then of course, with my website, people Googling and looking for someone. LinkedIn is a good source for me too. And then of course, all my social media, I'm constantly posting things and, so forth so that I get my name out there.
But speaking is, and I hear this over and over again. That's one of the ways that I get my top clients is through speaking. So I would definitely affirm that. And the last few women that I've interviewed over the last couple of months, and I've interviewed, I guess, 55, 60 women already. I would say the majority of them get their clients from speaking, or it's one of their best ways, if not the best. Yeah,
it really is. It really is. So if anybody needs a speaker, just call me, okay?
Darn right. Well, we're going to make sure that they get all your information. What are the top 3 things our listeners should know of before diving into Pinterest?
Well, the first thing is, and this is, talking about those first clients that I learned to say to people, is that you need to have a good website. You have to have a good website because Pinterest, the objective is to drive traffic to your website. And each one of those pins is it's a call to action to your website. So you need to have somewhere to send them. Okay. Right. The other thing is back to the images, good quality images, because that's, and they need to be, the ideal size is 735 by 1200. And that's because, 735 is how wide the columns are on Pinterest. And so, if it's in the taller pins tend to stand out more when they're looking at a feed. and so forth. And then the last thing I would say is consistency, 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 because that is where most people fall down, is that they're not very consistent. And one other thing I will add, because this is where so many people miss out, is be sure you write a description using, your keywords. Because so many people, I see pins all the time where people, haven't bothered to use that real estate, there as far as writing a description is concerned. And that's your opportunity to be able to tell something about your product and use those words to be found.
Excellent. And that's another great point. So thank you. Anna, what books are you currently reading or would recommend to our audience?
For pleasure or business?
Well, you know what? We like both, because obviously my last guest gave me one of each, and I love that, because you know what? We do have downtime. I have to admit, lately I've only been reading business books, but that's because I get a lot of them in the mail that I'm reviewing for people. However, it's nice to just read a book that takes me off of the web and everything once in a while, which is why I like real books.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I am right now reading The Bone Tree, and I don't know if you've heard of this book, but it's by an author, Greg. I guess you say his last name is Iles, and he also wrote Natchez Burning, and it's very intense because it's about the way that the rednecks treated the blacks in the South, but it's very, very well written. And I bring up both of them because really you need to read Natchez Burning before you read The Bone Tree to get the background, because it's like a sequel.
Okay, so Natchez Burning is Natches?
EZ.
Natchez? Burning. I haven't heard of either one of them, but I'm sure that they're both going to be made into movies.
Yeah, I'm sure they will be, because they are, he's kind of like another John Gresham.
Oh, okay. Excellent. So we'll definitely.
Because he's from Mississippi, and and then he's writing another one that will come out next year. That's the third part of this sequel.
Okay.
And
I think maybe I have heard about Natchez Burning, and maybe it's because they are making a TV show or something about it. It seems familiar. Welcome, Steve. Steve Caggiano just joined us, so thank you for being with us. So we got some wonderful guests in the room. And by the way, for our guests, we're almost on the top of the hour, and if you have a question you'd like to ask Anna, feel free to type it into the live chat area. I have a couple more questions for Anna, and then we'll be closing it out. So I want to make sure if you have any questions, you get those answered. Anna, what's your favorite smartphone app or online tool?
My favorite app is, and I call it Waze, Waze, and I think it's pronounced differently. Somebody can correct me. I don't care.
How do you spell it?
Waze.
Okay.
It's like a GPS, but it's user generated. And so people will report when they see an accident, and they will report when they see a policeman. And I just love that part. No, but and then you
radar, huh?
Exactly. And you can, and the other thing is you can do a chat. So for, if I'm in stop and go traffic on I-75, I can say I'm at mile marker 220 on I-75. Where does this clear? And people will, and then that way you have an idea. Yeah, and also it will it also calculates alternate routes for you. And so, like a couple of weeks ago, I met some friends from Mississippi at Gulf Shores, Alabama, and they were in unreal traffic. Well, I used this app, and I mean, at one point it took me through a neighborhood, okay, but I wasn't in traffic. It was awesome.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and it'll tell you if, and then you can also ask people which lane, because, when you're on the interstate and stop and go traffic, and you're wondering, okay, was the accident on the left side or the right side? You know,
especially if all you're seeing is the taillights. Yeah,
exactly. So I love that app, and I tell people about it all the time because I do like it so much. And then my next one is Dropbox, because I just love Dropbox because it makes me portable. You know, I can access my information anywhere I am, and I love that.
Yeah, that's true. I use Amazon S3 account, mainly because it's a lot less expensive than Dropbox. But Dropbox is so easy because you can just upload an image when you take it on your phone and stuff, and you're done with it. Then you just have to go back and remember to find it and renaming and all of that, and I just don't have the time. But I think it's a great tool. So thank you very much. What one thing, Anna, would you like to share that we didn't discuss?
That I feel like more people should try Pinterest because it is an excellent marketing tool. And 88% of the people that are on Pinterest end up buying something there. So, that's a pretty good stat. Wow. And the other part is that it's 1/3 of the population on Pinterest of the users earn $100,000 or more. So the people are there looking for what, shopping. And there also are people that can afford to buy things. Okay. So, in that scenario, if I told you you could be in front of that kind of audience, you would want to do your marketing there. If I told you an ad in a magazine was going to be in front of that type of market, you'd really think seriously about utilizing that. And, don't be afraid of using Pinterest, because I really think a lot of people are just afraid to even try it.
Well, I think the fear comes from not understanding how to use it and how it can help their business. Because I've had a lot of people, I work with a lot of authors, and I will tell you, for me, when I tell authors, but my book isn't visual. Oh, yes, it is. It's in somebody's mind, it's visual. So if you're writing about angels, then you can share angel quotes and angel images and, anything related to angels, so it's always, it really is good for most people. I would agree with you on, there are certain industries that it probably wouldn't be as effective. But I imagine there'll be someone who will come up with a way to make it effective. If they want to make it effective and be different and stand out because no one else is using it in that industry,
Exactly. Like I had a client that was an insurance company, and they were like, and it was mainly because their employer wanted them to do this, and they were like, what am I going to put about insurance on there? And so I said, well, think about it. What do you insure? Motorcycles. Well, you can have a great board, about motorcycles on there. Cars, houses, giving them housing tips, and so forth. You just have to be able to think outside the box.
Yeah, excellent.
And think like your client. That's one of the things I say about real estate. With real estate, a lot of times I'll look at real estate Pinterest accounts, and they're just, the images of houses they have for sale. Well, no, think about what are the questions that your client asks you, when you're selling a house. What are the schools like? Where can we shop? What about entertainment? Community events, and put those kinds of things on there, because that attracts the client.
So you could name your boards nearby schools and local entertainment, where to shop. And wow, what a service you're now providing.
Exactly. And see, that gets back to that co-op idea, where you get people to help you with doing that. And all. So be an excellent way of attracting clients. And like you said, also being like a community service too at the same time.
It's great. Well, tell me what's next for Anna Vanlandingham.
Well, one is to, be online more, as far as like webinars and so forth are concerned. And also, and along with that, get more speaking engagements with larger audiences is what I'm working towards. So
wonderful. And how can our audience get connected with you, get in touch with you? I know we have PinterestPro.com. What other ways can they get in touch with you?
Yeah. My website is a good place to go because all my other connections are there, but I'm also on Facebook and I'm on Twitter and I have a Facebook group and I'm on LinkedIn.
So is your Pinterest account called Pinterest.com/Pinterest Pro or Anna Vanlandingham or?
It's Pinterest Pro V because the person that has Pinterest Pro is a squatter and won't give it up.
Okay, got it. Well, that happens too. That's unfortunate because and it happens when that's why you have to be an early adopter of these things. One of the things I always say to my clients, first thing is, even if you don't think you're going to use it, go grab your name.
Exactly. That is very good advice.
Periscope and, because you never know. If you don't, right, someone else will. And it turns out to be the best advice for most people because they end up using it at some point or another. And if they don't, after 5 years, I say get rid of it,
right,
or even 3 years if you don't think you're going to use it, but at least get it now because, if I look back on Blab, I had no idea it was going to take off like it did. So I got the account, set it up right away, but I didn't do anything with it for months. Mm-hmm, I mean, it was at least 5 or 6 months. And all of a sudden I hear everybody talking about it in my circle, because you and I are both in that similar circle with the social media and internet marketing. And it was really, the average person didn't really know about it, but the internet marketers certainly did. They were the ones really using it. And I said, maybe I need to go on there. So I went on as a guest on one show and decided to start my own. So you never know. And now I've interviewed, I don't know, almost 60 women, I think. So it definitely is a wonderful medium. So I just wanted to say thank you for being one of our guests today, Anna. And also in my Women Rocking the Web on Facebook. I love that. We learn a lot from each other. And Anna, thank you again for being with us. You've been a delight.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
My pleasure. I want to say thank you to our guests, the people who've listened during the show. And anybody, if you're listening to the replay, make sure you get a hold of Anna Vanlandingham at PinterestPro.com. You'll be able to find all her social media links there, and you can connect with her all over the web. And she's very approachable. She answers her emails right away. So, Anna and I, can communicate. This is our first face-to-face, and I can't wait to do an in-person face-to-face. That'll be really good. So again, and my name is Heidi Richards Mooney, Women in E-Commerce, We Magazine for Women, and of course, the EntreprenHer Show. Thank you all for being with us today, and I hope you all have a great day. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
And be sure and go over to Women in E-Commerce at wecai.org and check us out. We are always looking for a few good women and men to join us. Take care. Bye-bye, everyone.